what are your political aspirations?
Mr. Bobby, there is nobody who would have served a government entity, particularly sensitive institutions like this that's got to do with the security of the state, that may or may not have political ambitions. I do, naturally speaking, I do have political ambitions. But I do believe that everything has to go with time. Probably there are three things in life, you know. The time has come, the time hasn't come, and the time is gone and past. Maybe my own time for me to be able to become politically active is not yet come, but it's on its way. I do believe that. And when it does come, I would have to serve no party other than the All People's Congress Party. That has to be recognized, naturally speaking. Yes, sir.
So, in your capacity as a lawyer and the chief immigration officer, do you think those citizens who are bona fide Sierra Leoneans should have equal rights to run for public office as their fellow Sierra Leoneans in general, regardless of their country of residence?
This is a very, very sensitive question. And I think it is being occupying the headlines, you know, in this political environment in this country. And for me to be able to answer this question, I have to look at dual citizenship from the perspectives of countries that do acknowledge and recognize dual citizenship, from those countries that don't recognize dual citizenship at all. Like, for instance, the United States of America does not recognize dual citizenship. India does not. Norway does not recognize dual citizenship. And the United Kingdom, as one of those countries, does accept and recognize dual citizenship. Now, for these Sierra Leoneans who have taken to, you know, foreign nationalities to be looked at as having equal rights with Sierra Leoneans who have not, it's a misnomer. There's a mistake in that, in fact. If, for example, you have taken to an American citizenship, it means because America does not recognize dual citizenship, you have to relinquish absolutely and in totality your country of birth's nationality. Be that as it may, for you now to come and hold a political power in this country when you're carrying an American citizenship is actually unethical, in the sense that how would somebody who is homegrown continue to fight for the same political power as you with an American citizenship? It's unethical, it's unfair. And secondly, you may be seen as cheating both sides, because if you are holding on to an American passport, an American citizenship, and expect to come and contest for a parliamentary position or ministerial position, then it means it's an abrogation of democracy. In fact, it's unconstitutional, because if you look at the Constitution of Section 41, coming down to 75 and 76, where the conditions for somebody to become a parliamentarian are laid bare, it makes reference to somebody who is born and bred in this country, a Sierra Leonean per se.
Well,
So I have not yet finished. A Sierra Leonean per se. All right? So therefore, if you are now coming to contest for a position without you relinquishing your American citizenship in ways that you can, by virtue of the existence of the 2006 Dual Citizenship Act, taking advantage of that, then it means, you know, you have actually acted, you know, against the Constitution. But if you look at the case of the British citizenship that does accept dual citizen, it is also unfair, not just because Britain does accept dual citizen, that can urge you or influence or motivate you to come and regard yourself as a Sierra Leonean to begin to compete for positions within the political spectrum with Sierra Leoneans that are also. So whichever way you look at it, I'm pretty sure we have to be able to relinquish our nationalities abroad for us to come and begin to contest or compete with people that are here.
Oh, well, I beg to differ with you in some respects, Mr. Khalifa. Of course, this is not the forum for an extensive debate on this issue because my purpose here was to talk to you about your role as immigration officer for the past 10 years. But first of all, I think the U.S. does recognize dual citizenship in the sense that they are granting dual citizenship to people of different countries of different origin, and
But
they
I'm talking between Sierra Leone and
well since 2006, when the Dual Citizenship Act was passed, American immigration laws understood that Sierra Leoneans are now being granted dual citizenship, and so the idea of relinquishing or your right as citizen of Sierra Leone when you become American citizen does no longer exist. The allegiance that is sworn does not include, I mean, abandoning your citizenship of origin. As far as I understand that, and for the fact that there was the 2006 Parliamentary Act granting dual citizenship to Sierra Leone. There is no reference, I believe, in that act that says if you are a dual citizen, conditions are attached that deprive you or disenfranchise you from having the right to vote as Sierra Leonean or to be voted for. Mistakes may have been made in terms of not amending the previous section of the Constitution that denied dual citizenship to Sierra Leoneans. And so that will be a problem for parliamentarians who pass the law without repealing that clause in the Constitution. I don't know whether that is an entrenched clause that makes it very difficult to amend, but that is something that should have been done by parliamentarians or even the government to make sure that laws are passed, and if they are contravening existing portions of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, efforts should have been made to amend that section of the Constitution. But you cannot abrogate the rights of Sierra Leoneans retrospectively, because people have legitimate expectations, like all those in governance who are dual citizens who have held these offices for so many years. But just for now, at the 11th hour of elections, for the government to turn around and say that dual citizens have no right to participate in the democratic process by having the right to vote and be voted for, I think is unjust, in my opinion. I mean, with all due respect, sir.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. We can carry on going on and on and on and on. The urge about you will still continue over this. But I do believe, well, of course, may I first of all, give you the credit that you've been able to elucidate an aspect of, the response to the American, government in recognizing the passage of the 2006 in Sierra Leone here. I think I have to give you that credit. Probably I have not gone as far as looking at whether or not it is acceptable or not. But I'm strictly speaking, from the point of view of countries that don't in any way recognize dual citizenship. India is one of those. Norway is one of
because the reason why I say that, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The reason why I say that is that dual citizens, Sierra Leoneans, and others from other countries in the United States have a right to participate or hold public offices.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, a Sierra Leone I know is running for a district to be in Maryland, in one of the districts, to be a member of the legislature in the state of Maryland. We have people, depending on how many years you've been in the United States, you can run for Congress, even if you're a dual citizen. Right? So America does not exclude people from running for public office simply because you are an American and a citizen of another country.
So why then the relinquishment of your previous nationality into accepting American citizenship prior to?
Well, I believe that was prior to 2006.
Okay, well that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, that was prior to 2006 because, and diplomatically or because of recognizing the laws of Sierra Leone. If Sierra Leone did not recognize dual citizenship, so and you want to become an American, so in accordance with Sierra Leone laws and being that law being respected by the immigration laws of the United States, then you have to relinquish your citizenship of Sierra Leone because your country does not recognize that you can be a Sierra Leone and an American at the same time. But since the passage of
The 2006
the
Act,
2006 Dual Citizenship Act,
so it brings a change of heart.
yeah, I don't think those people who are being sworn in as citizens of the United States are having that. In fact, it's a general declaration that you respect the laws of the United States as a new citizen of the country.
So in other words, the
I
argument
I don't think people are specifically saying that, or the U.S. government is specifically asking people to relinquish or allegiance to their countries when they become dual citizens.
So in other words, you're trying to now tell me that there is no need for somebody to be an American and a Sierra Leonean at the same time. That's what you're trying to tell me.
That on the contrary, that is not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that you can be a Sierra Leonean and an American in your capacity as a dual citizen of both countries.
Right.
And in the U.S., if you are a dual citizen, you still have a right to hold public office.
Okay.
I'm not saying you can be a president of the United States,
I understand that.
or you can be a senator. That I don't. That is something
So there is no certain of the provisions in the American Constitution that precludes people from having offices in that country. But here, it's not. It's quite the opposite. Here, you talked about what you don't know whether it's an entrenched clause in the Constitution. But when we have Section 75 and Section 6,
are those
made
entrenched
there,
clauses?
well, they could be amended.
Are they subject to a referendum when they are amended?
I don't know whether they're subject to subject to referendum. I cannot tell. You know, that is for an interpretation by the Supreme Court. But I do believe that if Parliament is in session and a private motions bill is probably presented in Parliament regarding the amendment of certain of the portions of maybe Section 75 and Section 6 regarding the conditions under which you have to become a member of Parliament and of the disqualifying or disqualifying sections of number 76, then it means it may probably have to be done by 2/3 majority in House of Parliament. All right? But because that has not been done does not necessarily mean, you know, what does obtained in the United States of America has to be obtained here in Sierra Leone.
No, on the contrary, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just making the point that the argument that if you are a dual citizen and therefore you are disenfranchised from having the right to vote in
Here
Sierra
in
Leone
Sierra Leone.
or be voted for, it's an argument that is flawed.
Well, it is an argument that, from my own point of view, is flawed. But from my own point of view, until there is an amendment of those sections, I don't think it's an argument that does not hold.
Okay, so who should bear the brunt of that inability to do or pursue that amendment or repeal that law?
It's in Parliament because
Right, and then why would ordinary citizens who legitimately, as Sierra Leoneans, should think that they have a right to come here and vote?
Because it should not have to take the example of the American to interpret what does obtain in Sierra Leone, and that's where the flaw is.
Yeah, but
That's where the
but
flaw
my
is.
point is, ordinary citizens should not be punished for the failure of the government or the Parliament of Sierra Leone to act appropriately.
Not that they have been punished, it's because of the lack of it. Had they known before that this is going to be the situation, they probably may not have to come for such political opportunities without relinquishing their American citizenship. Because the fact that you can be a dual citizen and still hold a position in the United States of America is an interpretation that cannot be imported to try and have a leeway or manipulate our own clauses of the Constitution.
Well, yeah,
to be made
I
possible.
understand that.
Right.
I mean, of course, I'm not saying by any stretch of
Yeah, that's
the imagination that American policies and laws should be replicated here. My point is, citizens of Sierra Leone who believe they still, by virtue of Dual Citizenship Act, they remain citizens of Sierra Leone, regardless of the fact that they are dual citizens of other countries, should have a legitimate expectation to have the right to vote in their country of origin and to be voted for. So if in retrospect, or let's say at the 11th hour, when they are prepared to come and participate in the democratic process, and then this policy just springs up from, I would say, probably nowhere, and say, okay, your rights are now being abrogated because you are a dual citizen, therefore you are not going to be given the opportunity to participate. Why don't, if people, since voting or the right to be voted for is a democratic process, in my own personal opinion, I believe a better process would be for anybody to be allowed to compete and contest, and the districts or constituencies or the ordinary people will make the decision. If they think you are a foreigner because you are not here and you don't know their problems, you are not in the community, you cannot share their feelings and their pain and everything, they will not vote for you. And you will lose. You will lose to those people who are not dual citizens, but they are here.
So from the point of view of your argument, it's like you are ascertaining that these guys with dual citizenship from the United States of America who've come to fight for political power here have been cheated. In other words, their rights have been abrogated. That's your understanding.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying that they have a legitimate expectation because nobody had repealed that law or repealed the 2006 dual citizenship and say, or attach clauses thereto specifying that these rights, meaning the right to vote and to be voted for in Sierra Leone, will be abrogated if you become a dual citizen, even though we are giving the right to people to. Before 2006, this argument did not arise because people knew that if they were going to become citizens of another country, they were going to give up their citizenship of Sierra Leone.
And when did some of them give up their citizenship of Sierra Leone?
Those people who became citizens of other countries before 2006.
Right.
You know, so is there any distinction with regards to those who are now being affected by this new wave of, I would say, discrimination?
If you say they should not be treated retroactively prior to the passage of the 2006 Act, it's like you are saying that even those who had, relinquished their nationality probably after the 2006 could also take back their nationality because of the passage of this act.
Absolutely.
So both of them, in other words, by my understanding, according to your argument, are one and the same people.
Well, they will be one of the same people by
Right,
virtue of the Dual Citizenship Act.
So
because they did not have the right before.
Right, okay.
But now, by passage of the Dual Citizenship Act, I think there was, I don't quite remember the elements of the act itself, but there was a process for them to come back and become citizens of Australia again under the act.
It seems as though this sensitive, argument is actually taking our time because in either ways, from the point of view of me being the chief immigration officer, my interpretation to that is even the justification for legitimate expectation may hold, wherein there had already been an amendment of those sections of the Constitution to have provided the ways for them.
Right.
But wherein they did not know that it hasn't happened at all, and it's still there in existence, we just cannot, despite the political dissonance that may crop up as a result of that, there is no way that they could be given the opportunity to carry on going. That's the thing.
Well, I agree.
What about countries which don't at all interpret dual citizenship from the way somebody coming from the United States look at it? It's more or less the same thing. Because wherein they don't even recognize dual citizenship. They don't even want you to hold your country's national passport at all. Because if your court is going to be taken, your country of registration for naturalization, it's going to take away your
Well,
passport.
my
In
question
final
would have been,
services-
we're going to move on. We're going to
Yeah,
move on
please.
with this interview. My question would have been,
Okay.
why now? Why is all of this happening now? And the other point of it is that why would people be punished if they had well retroactively? I was so to speak.
Retroactively, yeah.
Yeah, and that is unfair and unjust. I mean, it's inequitable for that to happen. If they were on notice,
Okay, I respect your opinion. There are, there's lots of dissonance over this.
there's a gray area in the
Absolutely,
law.
I respect
You
your
are a
opinion.
lawyer yourself,
Yes,
and
yes,
I am
yes,
one,
that's correct.
and so there is a gray area in the
And
law.
that's why enviably I appreciated the argument regarding this, this thorny issue. But again, I have to speak from the point of view, you understand, of what would have happened had the APC government not taken these kinds of measures. What would have happened? Because on the flip side of the coin, there are those who have been waiting to see whether these guys on dual citizenship may have been nominated. You understand, for positions before they start ringing the bell to go to court and for them to be discredited because of that. So that would have been.
Let's move on, Mr. Alpha Qualifier Chroma. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
That's correct.
Okay, so well, of course, the question here I have here is: does the argument that dual citizens should be barred from running for public office, including the presidency of Australia Leone, rest on solid legal foundation?
Well,
I will
that's
ask you
what
that.
we've just talked about.
Yes.
So having to go through all over again.
Okay, let's move
means,
on.
yeah, sure.
All right. It looks like this is your last year in office as Chief Immigration Officer, regardless of the outcome of the 2018 elections. Is that correct?
It's two ways, actually. It's two ways. This is the chief immigration officer that is contracted. His services are contracted by the government in power. All right?
Yes.
So I would accept the fact that should there be any change of administration, I'm gone.
Okay.
Okay? I'm gone. Despite the fact that it may be unfair for me to have been kicked out from this office when a new administration comes in. But my prayers are that we will win the next elections, and my removal from this office has to be determined, A, by the government in power, that's
Government of the day.
government of the day, and I presume it's going to be the All People's Congress Party that's going to, uplift me from where I am, or it's going to be on a personal decision to be taken as to whether or not I'm saturated with ideas and I prefer to leave.
I understand that this is a contractual position.
That's correct.
But is it a political appointment?
It is a political appointment based on contract.
Okay, so if this is true, what is your message? I mean, if this is your last year in office, that's what I mean. So, what is your message to your staff, your colleagues in government, and the people of Sierra Leone in general?
I would put it this way because that is more hypothetical than the way I want to put it. Let us say, supposing you may choose to have this year as your final year. If you choose to have it as a final year, what's the message I'm going to give? Because no matter what happened, the president in power could do anything. If he needs you for another appointment or engagement, he could ask you to leave where you are and go elsewhere and continue to serve. All right? But my message will be, to the people of this country and to my members of SAV, look, whatever you are given to do, whether you're sitting in a little corner shop, always make sure that you attract the right customers. Always treat the customers beautifully, diligently, and humbly. And in the absence of you being in the seat where you are now, lots of things probably would be made reference to you as at the time when you were occupying that chair. And to the people of this country, I would say, I believe there is every reason for me to be thankful for the people of this country to have accepted my woes and tribulations, my follies, the good works that I've done for the country and things like that. Because it would have gone down in history that at the time when Alpha Khalifa Kuruma was the chief immigration officer, at least he brought us, the biometrics passport. At least he's, introduced to us a national migration policy. At least he's moved the building from where it is to where it is now. At least he's done very well in trying to democratize the manner in which the work is done, because I don't interfere into the jobs of all of these directors and their assistants downward, down to the bottom. I allow everybody to do your job, and you take responsibility of that. I'm not the kind of a boss who really would like to begin to peep through to see what you're doing, because the regulations and the modus operandi is there for you to be able to do correctly as those. Because if you go wrong, then investigations would have to prove from whence the wrongdoing had started, and you have to bear the brunt of it. I think these are things I would love to be remembered for.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chief Immigration Officer of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Alpha Khalifa Kuruma. This is Bobby David Boyo, and I want to say thank you very much to my colleague here, Mr. Babatunde. And also, I extend my gratitude to Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Philip Neville of Star Television, for giving us the opportunity to conduct this interview. Thank you very much. It's been a privilege to come and talk to you, Mr. Chief Immigration Officer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.